This is gonna be a quick video. I had to do this video again because it didn't come out right the first time. This video is gonna be about the Fallen, how the Fallen works, how the Fallen ship opium in China and got their citizens hooked on opium. Let me see. Fair use. Right? This is going to be a very short video. This video is like 5 minutes, 26 seconds. It's on YouTube. How Britain got China hooked on opium.
We criminalize people, mainly black and brown people, for possessing small amounts of drugs like weed. We do this because drugs are bad. Unless, of course, it's your government that's dealing the drugs. Like that time the British Empire got China hooked on opium. Empires of Dirt, a show about Europeans getting rich at the expense of everyone else. Opium had been grown in China since the 11th century, but it was only until the 17th century that usage really took off, when people realized you could smoke it instead of just chewing it.
They realized that you could smoke it instead of just chewing it. Yes, sir. The Fallen. Yep. How can we sell it? It don't matter what happened to the people. You just need to sell it and get money off of it. It's the Fallen. Chemistry, yep. That's what's going on.
By the 1800s, there were foggy back alley opium dens in the streets of Canton, now known as Guangzhou, Shanghai, and even in London's Limehouse on Pennyfield Street. In the early 19th century, Chinese exports like silk, ceramic, and tea were hugely popular in Britain. Opium was one of the few things the British Empire could trade back. It's estimated that as many as 15 million people were addicted to opium by 1890, making it one of the worst cases of national drug addiction ever seen. They would ship opium grown in colonial India to Canton, where Chinese traders would take it into China. As opium grew in popularity, British trade increased. In 1800, 300 metric tons of opium was shipped into China.
300 metric tons. Got it from India, right? Shipped it to China. Now, let me say something. I don't care what you do with your time or your life. I don't believe the people back in the past that used to do some of these drugs for different reasons, right? I don't believe they became addicted to it to like it is now. I don't believe they are what they would call heathenists, you know. I believe they did these certain drugs and stuff for different reasons back in the past, not like they do now. But the British, the Fallen, they don't care, they just want money.
4 decades later, this had increased to 3,500 metric tons of opium. Opium was a highly addictive drug with similar effects to modern-day heroin. Long-term users could experience liver, kidney, and heart problems and could die of withdrawal. Opium
liver, kidney, and heart problems could die from withdrawal. Now, you think these people didn't know that this type of stuff would happen to these folks? Would be side effects of using this stuff? Let's keep going.
Use had been banned by the Chinese Emperor Yongzheng in 1729 after he saw the effects of addiction on his citizens, and again in 1796 by the Emperor Jiaqing after everyone ignored the first ban. But Britain continued smuggling opium into China. It was simply too profitable not to. The opium monopoly out of India was worth £981,000 in 1831. That's the equivalent of about £100 million today. By the 1830s, people from every level of Chinese society were hooked on opium. After Emperor Daoguang received reports of mass addiction all over the country, he'd had enough. Soldiers burned all the opium they found. British traders lost 20,000 chests of opium, equivalent to about £2 million. This led to the First Opium War in 1839. The British were so angry that their drugs had been stolen that they sent troops to the region to demand economic reparations.
After they came in these people's country illegally, shipping drugs in their country, when the people get mad and said, I don't want this going on no more, I'm going to seize all this and take all this, they have the nerve to fall and have the nerve to come back and say, we want economic reparations for you taking our stuff. I'm going to keep going.
For the financial losses they'd incurred while illegally trafficking narcotics into a foreign country. They were also angry that China refused to open up more ports to British trade and had disrespected their traders. Back in the UK, the press depicted
Got mad at them because they wouldn't let them bring more stuff in the country and destroy the country again. Some more.
the Chinese as barbarians who had insulted the honor of Brits abroad. In an act of war, Britain occupied Hong Kong, then a sparsely inhabited island off the southeast coast
They occupied Hong Kong
of China. In 1841, China ceded the island to Britain. A year later, the Treaty of Nanking was signed, marking an end to the First Opium War. So Britain got what it wanted: money for illegally trafficking drugs into China and a shiny new island base to smuggle opium from, Hong Kong.
and still got land. When they got them folk land, Hong Kong.
Opium remained illegal after the war, but the Chinese authorities were basically forced to accept the drug trade into China. Opium consumption ripped through Chinese society like never before. Chinese smugglers quickly realized that if they registered their ships in Hong Kong as British ships, they could keep smuggling opium into China. This triggered the Second Opium War in 1856, when a Chinese ship flying the Union Jack was seized by the authorities. The Chinese crew was arrested and the British flag was torn down. The British Navy, supported by the French troops, retaliated by seizing Beijing and looting and burning down the imperial.
Seized Beijing with the help of the French, came in and burnt down the imperial palace. This is how the fallen operate.
Summer Palace, China was forced to legalize the import of opium. With the opium trade finally legal, imports from British-controlled India nearly tripled to hit 6,500 metric tons in 1880. Fed up with the British running drugs into their country, the Chinese authorities decided that if you couldn't beat them, you might as well join them. By around 1950,
They said if you couldn't beat them, you might as well join them. Ain't that a shame?
moral and political opposition to the drug trade had grown. Britain stopped importing opium to China. It simply wasn't profitable anymore. It's hard to quantify the scale of the misery that Britain caused in China, or the mess they left behind. And I know personally because my own great-grandfather was addicted to opium and eventually died of withdrawal in Hong Kong. And it's something my family still talks about all the time. The British Empire were one of the biggest drug pushers in history, but hardly anyone in the UK knows what we did in China. Pablo Escobar, he's got nothing on the British Empire.
So, one of the bases of the fallen, which is Britain, sabotage a whole country. This is what you call being blinded by the light. This is what you call Satan appearing as an angel of light. This knowledge, this all about money. This is how the fallen operate. Angels of God. Yeah. Angels of God. That's all.